It's week 3 of a government shutdown, and people are getting angry. The thousands of federal workers that Trump fired to punish Democrats are angry. Americans who rely on those workers to protect us from disease are angry. The air traffic controllers who still have their jobs are angry that they have to show up to work but aren't getting paid. Families who just got their health insurance notices and saw that their premiums are skyrocketing are angry. And you're probably thinking, if the American people are angry, then Republicans in Congress, surely they're trying to do something about it. Nope, wrong. Heck, Republicans in the House of Representatives aren't even here. Speaker Mike Johnson told them just to take a vacation. You heard that right. Not negotiation, vacation with a V. The government is shut down and Republicans refuse to do anything about it. That's wrong.
In stupid news out of America today, Kristi Noem sent a video to every airport in America asking them to play it on all of the TVs, telling people waiting for their flights that the government shutdown was due to the Democrats. Now, if you haven't been paying attention during the last, 6,000 years of Trump's presidency, the Republicans run all 3 seats of legislation right now, House, Senate, and presidency. So if anybody is responsible for the shutdown of the government, it's the Republicans. I know, it's shocking. Fox News won't tell you this. Also, shout out to my hometown of Spokane, Washington, who said, it is our First Amendment right. Also, shout out to my hometown of Spokane, Washington, who went on record to say, we refuse to play your propaganda.
I would like Republicans and Democrats to come together and decide they're not going to take their salaries. Because until you are getting, until this affects you the way it's affecting your constituents,
Yes.
y'all are not going to settle this.
Yes.
So as an American, I am asking that you not take a salary until you settle this. And I think lots of people might feel the same way.
I agree with that.
You know what's wild? We're living through a constitutional crisis in real time, and half the country is cheering it on. A senior official accidentally admits on live TV that the president has plenary authority, unlimited, unchecked power, then freezes mid-sentence when he realizes what he just said. Government shutdown, while one party controls everything. 4,000 federal workers fired, including special education staff. New York's attorney general indicted for prosecuting the administration. Top generals fired, local police federalized, and someone made $190 million shorting crypto right before a major tariff announcement tanked the market. Here's the pattern. The people who screamed about government overreach for years, now cheering as federal power gets weaponized. The states' rights crowd, silent when the feds take over. This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about unchecked power, and who's paying the price for it. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's break it down.
It is day 13 of the government shutdown. And I don't think I've ever heard the Capitol this quiet. And that is because, well, there are no lawmakers. They're all back home. So President Trump did move forward with mass layoffs and firings. We're told about 4,000 people were let go across the federal workforce. And now we're learning there were significant cuts to staff working with special needs services, raising new questions about the impact for children with disabilities. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, well, he's still here at the Capitol. I asked him if he's comfortable with those cuts. Also learning there were significant cuts to staff at the special education services. Are you comfortable with those cuts?
I haven't seen the specifics of that. All agencies in a triage situation. Because remember, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats turned off the funding for all these things that everybody cares about. And so the executive branch, the Office of Management and Budget, has to determine what are the most efficient and effective programs. It's a difficult task. It's not one that they relish. They don't want to do it. Listen to the president's own words and Russ Vought's own words and everybody who's involved. They want the government to be opened. They're begging Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. That's how to make all this stop.
Wait a second. Mike Johnson really just blamed Chuck Schumer and the Democrats for a shutdown when Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House? The math isn't mathing here. You can't have a trifecta and still point fingers across the aisle. That's like owning all the tools, standing in front of a broken fence, and blaming your neighbor for not fixing it. The bill Republicans passed funds the government at current levels, but Democrats won't sign without health care protections. Classic standoff. And instead of negotiating, leadership went home. Meanwhile, 4,000 federal workers got pink slips. Special education staff, the people who make sure disabled kids get the services they're legally entitled to, gone. For what? A political standoff where nobody wins except the people writing op-eds about how principled they are. This isn't governance, it's performance art, and the people paying for tickets are the ones who can't afford to miss a paycheck.
Guys, I will just tell you, I've been covering Capitol Hill for years, and I have never really seen it this empty. This tunnel is typically filled with lawmakers and staff. They are rushing to get to votes. They're having conversations about policy in the hallways. None of that is happening. Day 13 of the government shutdown. There is no end in sight. Yes, Republicans did pass a bill to keep the government funded at current levels. But Democrats say they will not support it unless Republicans agree to their health care.
Just laid off a bunch of employees from the Office of Special Education Programs. And for those of you that don't know, that is a part of the Department of Education that is solely responsible for ensuring the compliance of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, as well as overseeing that funding is being appropriately spent on children with disabilities to be in compliance with their individualized education program. Yeah, well, all those employees that got laid off, we can go ahead and thank the Democrats for that. We are in this government shutdown because you want to put illegal immigrants first and give them millions of dollars in healthcare. And because of that, we are in this government shutdown. And it's now affecting the lives of Americans. And not just any group of Americans, children with disabilities in regards to their free and appropriate public school education that they are entitled to. And I don't want to hear, Nate, he could have cut it from another department, the Department of Treasury, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense. No. Every person in education knows that when there are federal budget cuts, education is the first thing to get hit. And from the party that screams inclusion of children with disabilities, you are harming them. And you think this is helping them? No. Put Americans first. Honestly, be so.
Let me make sure I understand this correctly. The party that constantly screams about inclusion is now being blamed for gutting special education programs because they won't fund a bill that strips healthcare protections for immigrants? That's not logic, that's gymnastics. Cuts to the Office of Special Education Programs aren't just budget line items. These are the people who enforce IDEA compliance, making sure kids with disabilities actually get the support the law promises them. Without federal oversight, schools start cutting corners, kids fall through cracks. But blaming Democrats for this is like setting your own house on fire and then screaming at the fire department for not preventing it. Republicans passed their bill. Democrats said add healthcare protections. Republicans refused. Government shuts down. Programs get axed. And somehow, Democrats are the villains? Education always gets hit first during budget battles. And pretending this is about putting Americans first while cutting services for American children with disabilities? That's not patriotism. That's hypocrisy with a flag pin.
Wow, Stephen Miller absolutely did not have a glitch on live TV. Okay, he had an oh shit moment where he said something that he fucking was not supposed to say. Check this out, and then I will explain after.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue.
Anyways, yes. So you can see, clearly not a glitch. You can see Stephen Miller's body move and you can still see him blinking. Let's talk about what he said right before he froze. Okay. He said plenary authority. It sounds like he was tripping on his words right before he glitched, but he was not. That's an actual thing. Okay. I'm going to tell you what it means right now. Plenary authority is the full, complete, and absolute power to act on a specific matter without any limitation. With him acknowledging Project 2025 and deploying the National Guard to all these cities, he said the quiet part out loud and then was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. I don't think I was supposed to say that. A lot of you guys don't seem to grasp the reality of the situation. Anyways, that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day and you are all safe and happy.
Stephen Miller just said the quiet part out loud on national television, and you could watch the panic hit him in real time. Plenary authority. That's the phrase he dropped. For anyone who slept through civics class, that means complete, absolute, unchecked power. No limits, no oversight. The entire foundation of American government is built on the opposite principle: checks and balances. 3 co-equal branches. No single person gets unlimited authority. But Miller didn't misspeak. He said exactly what this administration believes. And the second those 2 words left his mouth, his brain went into damage control. Freeze. Panic. Stop talking. That wasn't a technical glitch. Watch the video. He's still blinking, still moving. That was a man realizing he just gave away the whole game plan on live television. You don't accidentally use legal terminology like plenary authority unless that's the actual framework you're operating under. If that doesn't alarm you, regardless of party, then you're not paying attention.
We just got massive breaking news out of Chicago. A federal judge has just ruled that Trump's use of the National Guard in Chicago is not permitted. Federal Judge Perry issued a scathing rebuke to Trump's Department of Homeland Security, stating that DHS's perception of events are simply unrealistic. And she added that she sees no credible evidence that there is a danger of a rebellion in the state of Illinois. It looks like Governor Pritzker won this one. Moments ago, Letitia James was indicted by Donald Trump's DOJ. Here is part of her response to Trump.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. And so today, I'm not fearful.
So President Trump has federalized the police department in Washington, D.C., and people are upset. He's calling it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., and I couldn't agree more. The crime in D.C. has ran rampant, and it's about time that people can now have faith and trust in law enforcement out there and be able to walk the streets and not get hit over the head or mugged. I mean, why would anybody be upset with that? We just had a young member of Doge beat by a gang of young males. I mean, why would anybody have a problem with that? The left is calling him a dictator. They're calling him an authoritarian. A lot of names that they throw, a lot of word salads. Of course, they're calling for him to be impeached. But the people that support him is calling for more. This is what we voted for. And we're very happy that this man is making DC safe.
The DC Police Department just got federalized, and people are celebrating it as Liberation Day. Let's talk about what actually just happened. Federalizing local police means removing local control and putting law enforcement under direct federal command. The same federal government these folks spent years calling tyrannical. Yes, DC has crime issues. So does every major city. But the solution has never been to bypass elected officials and centralize power at the federal level. That's the exact opposite of the small government principles people claimed were sacred. Here's the contradiction. You can't spend a decade screaming, "Don't tread on me," and then throw a parade when federal boots start marching through city streets. This isn't about public safety. It's about testing boundaries. Today it's DC, tomorrow it's another city, then another. Before long, federalized law enforcement becomes normal, and local accountability vanishes. If you actually care about freedom, this should terrify you. Because this isn't law and order. It's consolidation of power.
He's making America safe. Look at the border. Have we had any other illegal border crossings since he took office? Nah. A big difference from what we've dealt with the last 4 years and who was responsible.
Trump just fired multiple top military leaders in a shocking Friday night purge. And if you're not alarmed yet, you should be. This isn't about strategy. It's not about national security either. This is about loyalty to Trump and not to America. And that should terrify all of us. Here's who got the axe. General Charles Q. Brown Jr., General C.Q. Brown, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking officer in the U.S. military, gone. Admiral Lisa Franchetti, Chief of Naval Operations, a history-making leader who knows our Navy inside and out, fired. General James Slife, Air Force Vice Chief of Staff, another deeply experienced, battle-tested leader, removed. These people weren't let go because they weren't doing their jobs. They were fired because Trump wants a military that will follow his orders without question. And if you think that's an exaggeration, let's be clear. This is the same Trump who has openly talked about using the military against American citizens. This isn't just some political shakeup. This is a direct attack on the integrity of our armed forces. Think about it. We just lost some of the most experienced military leaders we have in a time of global instability. Trump is setting a dangerous precedent that the military should be filled with political loyalists and not military professionals. And worst of all, this weakens our military readiness. Our adversaries are watching and they see us becoming divided from the inside. Now look, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. This should scare the hell out of you. A military that serves the Constitution is what keeps America safe. A military that serves one man is what turns America into a dictatorship.
3 of the highest-ranking military officers in the United States just got fired on a Friday night, all at once. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the chief of naval operations, the Air Force Vice Chief of Staff, gone. These aren't political appointees. These are career military officers who've spent decades in service. And they weren't removed for incompetence. They were removed because loyalty to the administration got prioritized over expertise. This creates 2 massive problems. First, you just gutted institutional knowledge that can't be replaced overnight. Second, it sends a message to everyone in uniform: fall in line or get fired. The military swears an oath to the Constitution, not to a president. And when leaders get purged for upholding that oath instead of following orders blindly, democracies start their slide into authoritarianism. This isn't about strategy. It's about control, and our adversaries are watching.
So here's what we do. Share this. People need to know what's happening. Call your representatives. Demand that they speak out against Trump's actions. And last, support our troops, because they signed up to defend this country, not to be pawns in Trump's political games. We cannot let this go unnoticed. This is a 5-alarm fire for our democracy. Stay loud, stay informed, and don't let them get away.
He's getting rid of the Department of Education. I have school-aged kids. So what does he mean by that? It took me a hot minute to find straightforward information about what he was talking about that wasn't emotionally charged. And what I found out by this is, yes, he is getting rid of the Department of Education, but on the federal level, he's bringing it to more power to the states. Generally, this is what the Department of Education does. So if we got rid of that, each state would decide its own funding, policies, rules for schools. People like this idea because they think that their local leaders understand their communities better than the federal government, which might make the schools more responsive to the local needs. But on the other hand, losing funding might hurt poorer schools. And with states having different standards, it could create gaps in education quality. Also, those students that rely on federal protections, like those with disabilities, might lose their funding based on if their state changes their policy. So, pros, moving the power to the states might give the local areas more control. Cons, it could create major differences in the quality of education and protections. Hopefully now you understand and it's a less scary concept. Or more scary, depending on the way you look at it. I don't know.
The Department of Education is getting eliminated. Let's cut through the noise and talk about what this actually means. The Department of Education doesn't run schools. Schools operate locally through states and districts. What the federal department does is set baseline standards, distribute funding, and enforce protections for vulnerable students. Kids with disabilities, low-income families, students in underfunded districts. They depend on federal guarantees. Eliminating it hands all that power to individual states. Sounds great in theory, but here's the reality. States have wildly different priorities and resources. A kid in Massachusetts and a kid in Mississippi would suddenly get completely different educations. And without federal oversight, there's zero accountability. If a state decides to slash funding for disabled students or ignore civil rights protections, who stops them? Nobody. You end up with a patchwork system where your zip code determines the quality of your education. Some folks prefer local control, fine, but the trade-off is massive gaps and lost protections for the kids who need them most. Is this about empowering people or dismantling accountability? From where I'm sitting, it looks like the latter.
Miller just slipped up so bad on national TV that he stopped talking, freaked out, refused to speak, and he froze. They had to cut the program. Take a look.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon illegal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize.
That man looked scared shitless because you just know someone is in his ear being like, what the fuck did you just say? Did you seriously just say that on TV? So he stopped speaking. He doesn't know what to do. At this moment, the guy is fucking pants. Now, plenary authority, for those of you who don't know, it means complete, uncontrolled, and unchecked power. And he's stating that under Title 10, that's what the president has. That's simply not true. Nowhere in any circumstances does a U.S. president have plenary authority. It's what he fantasizes. He's only stating it because this is exactly what he wants the president to have, which obviously, no shit, from what we saw at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, his speech, he creams at the idea of unchecked power. I mean, that's what these people want. It's pretty bad.
Watch Stephen Miller's face the moment he realizes what he just said. The panic is unmistakable. Plenary authority. Those words trigger something in his brain, a fire alarm going off. What he just admitted on national television is that this administration believes the president has unlimited power, not constitutional power within boundaries. Unlimited, unchecked, absolute. That's not a verbal slip. That's the ideology. And Miller knows he wasn't supposed to say it out loud. We're watching it unfold in real time. Federal takeovers of local police, mass firings of military leaders, DOJ indictments of political opponents, and now a senior advisor openly stating the legal framework, authoritarian power. You don't freeze mid-sentence on national television unless you know you just revealed something you weren't supposed to. Miller gave away the game. And the game is dismantling checks and balances while calling it efficiency. Pay attention, because this isn't normal politics. This is a stress test on the Constitution.
Well, breaking fuck the news. I've said this before, but if you have any flights currently leaving anywhere in the United States, period, I recommend you just try to pick a new way to travel if it's not too far. As of yesterday into this morning, over 3,000 flights have been delayed, with Nashville and Chicago being hit the hardest. And Chicago, I mean Chicago O'Hare, one of the largest airports in the Midwest. Over 3,000 delays. Not enough air traffic controllers. Air traffic controllers are not going to work because they haven't been paid. And now that the Trump administration is coming out and stating that there's a possibility they will not pay certain workers with no specifications on what workers won't get paid, people are just saying, fuck it. I'll keep you updated.
How did somebody make $190 million while everyone else was losing their shirts yesterday? If you don't know, there was one of the biggest crashes we've ever seen in crypto. And someone came in 24 hours before and started placing shorts against the market. Short is just when you bet that the underlying asset is going to go down in price and you will make money on that. Now, this all started October 9th. At 1639 GMT time, they start accumulating this Bitcoin short. They initially put, and this is not chump change, guys. This isn't under your couch, pennies. This is $80 million that initially gets deposited, and they start placing shorts against Bitcoin, okay? That's fine. Now, the amount is unusual, but that itself is not the unusual part. Then we have Ethereum starts to get shorted at 349 GMT. Interesting. $30 million gets deposited into this account. Immediately start placing major bets that the market is going to go down. Why is this significant? Well, because at 14:57, this is only a few hours later, like 12 hours later, Trump posts on Truth Social that they are calculating a massive increase on Chinese tariffs. This is due to a rare earth mineral dispute. But the point is, nobody knew this was coming, except, of course, maybe this guy, because he's already got these multi-million-dollar shorts.
Did someone or a group of people know what Donald Trump was going to tweet? How manipulated is the crypto market? Let us know what you think in the comments.
Someone just walked away with $190 million by shorting crypto right before a tariff announcement crashed the market. And we're supposed to believe that's coincidence? Not buying it. This individual deposited $80 million and started shorting Bitcoin exactly 24 hours before the tariff announcement, then another $30 million on Ethereum, then right on cue the announcement drops, markets tank, and they collect nearly $200 million. That's not market analysis. That's insider information. If this happened in the stock market, the SEC would already be investigating. But because it's crypto, it flies under the radar. If someone in the administration's inner circle leaked that information, or worse, coordinated with traders before the public announcement, that's textbook corruption, using government authority for personal financial gain. This is what happens when accountability disappears. Markets get manipulated. Insiders get wealthy. Regular people lose their savings while the connected few cash out before the crash. This isn't free market capitalism. It's a rigged game where the house always wins.
Trump is corrupt. He is unfit to serve our country as president. He is unqualified to serve our country as commander-in-chief. I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump.
This is Tulsi Gabbard in 2 different public appearances just 5 years apart. And this flip on Donald Trump might be the thing that she's most famous for. Despite being a lifelong Democrat and even running in the party's presidential primary in 2020, Gabbard joined the GOP earlier this year. And now she's just been named Trump's pick to be the director of national intelligence, meaning if confirmed, she would oversee the agency that coordinates all US intelligence and informs the president on national security decisions. And that has some intelligence experts really nervous. While Gabbard is a vet, having served in the Army for over 20 years, she doesn't actually have any experience in intelligence at all. In fact, she's never held a high-ranking national security position, unlike her predecessors. So what can we expect if she's confirmed? Well, Gabbard has been pretty staunchly anti-interventionist, so much so that she's made some controversial statements that some say are sympathetic towards autocratic leaders like Putin. These are things like saying Russia had legitimate security concerns when invading Ukraine, or secretly meeting with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the midst of a civil war, which critics say legitimized the leader despite his status as a war criminal. Gabbard has also been accused of promoting Russian propaganda. This raises flags to some in the intelligence community who worry that intelligence reporting under her authority could be skewed and weaken the US. Former CIA officer Abigail Spanberger explained that the DNI has access to every single secret that the United States has. Meanwhile, Gabbard has previously praised intelligence leakers like Edward Snowden in the past. But these things aren't that surprising when you put them into context of the Trump agenda, because Trump has previously expressed admiration for leaders like Putin and skepticism of US intelligence agencies. He has also announced plans to overhaul our national security systems. So given Gabbard's complete 180 of her party's affiliation and previous criticism of Trump, her nomination seems like it has a lot less to do with true qualifications and a lot more to do with personal loyalty.
Accidentally, and then appeared to glitch all of a sudden when he recognized how much of his foot he just put into his mouth.
Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
Yeah, plenary authority is broad, wide-reaching, limitless power. He just came out and said Trump is an authoritarian. That is where his power comes from, despite the fact that the U.S. Constitution disagrees with him. We're supposed to be a country of checks and balances, and Stephen Miller wasn't supposed to put his foot that far into his mouth. Though seeing even Stephen Miller realize he effed up by giving the game away, and seeing him glitch and just go, was fun to watch.